Hi, welcome back to Nails Yap. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm here today with Elle, and if you don't know who Elle is, she owns the space I'm currently in, and I've been dying to get her on the podcast for ages.
Welcome to Nails Yap, the podcast where I do people's nails and we have a good old natter. I'm Laura, I'm a nail tech, and after years of hearing the funniest, deepest, and most random chats, I thought, why not turn it into a podcast? Whether you're a fellow nail tech, a client who loves a good catch-up, or someone who's just nosy about the beauty world, you're in the right place.
I'm here today with Elle, and if you don't know who Elle is, she owns the space I'm currently in, and I've been dying to get her on the podcast for ages. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, finally.
Do you want to? I know we've been trying so long to get a date in. So do you want to give everyone a little top line intro to you?
Yeah, so I've had this space for 4.5 years now. Before you came in, it was just me, and prior to that, I was in the salon for 10 years. That was my sort of start into it, but it's been nice to have someone to share the space with again since you've been here. It's been lovely.
Well, yeah, so that was one of the reasons I wanted to get you on. As someone who's only ever been self-employed, I really wanted to get you on to chat about the differences between employment and self-employment in this industry. I think it's going to be a really good episode for people who are just starting out and want to know the differences. I also think for me, I've done a nail course and then gone straight into self-employment and had to figure out the salon, the business side of it by myself with no mentor, I guess, other than other people online. So I think, yeah, it would be really good to hear what you learned from being in a salon and how that's impacted your journey from now owning your own space and kind of how it's helped shape it.
When you say it like that, it just made me think then it's almost like a comfort blanket when you're employed, because I think it is a really ballsy move when you're going from being trained straight into being self-employed, because there's no one to sort of give you that confirmation that you're doing something right.
Well, yeah, because there's been so many times I've seen the way you've done things and I thought, oh, that's a really good way of doing that, or I like how you do that, or oh yeah, I've never thought about that, because no one's ever told me to, because why would
you
they?
You pick things up from other people when you're around them, and that's the same with anything in life, I guess. You see people do something, you think, oh, that's actually good, I'm going to try doing it like that. Whether it's your makeup or your styling or your work in that you do, it's always handy just having someone around to sort of bounce ideas off with. So that is definitely a perk when you're in a salon, whether that be employed or in a self-employed environment with other people around you.
Well, yeah, because I think when you go on a course as well, you're learning that skill a lot of the time, especially if it's a day course. You're going to learn how to apply gel nails. You might have a really good tutor and they give you the odd little snippet. I remember on one of my courses that I did, and she was saying about consultation cards and keeping a record of your clients, and no one had ever given me that advice before. I've not seen it loads online, and now I do it and it's just second nature, but I never would have thought to do that, because how would I have known? Whereas maybe in a salon, if you're under an owner, they teach you all those things.
Yeah, because my training wise, I was trained in beauty as a whole, so I did nails as part of doing my beauty therapy.
You went to college to study beauty, didn't you?
Yes.
So how long ago was that? How was the journey from kind of college and initially training to now?
Yeah, so I did my level 2 beauty as an adult evening course, so I'd finished my A-levels, and then when I finished that, went on to do my level 3, and they suggested doing it as an apprenticeship because then it would be free, because I was 19 at the time, and if I was to do it as full-time college or as it was before, I would have had to pay for it. So I was like, oh, may as well do an apprenticeship, get the experience while I'm doing it. Now, I'd already trained in nails at that point, but I hadn't trained in gels, so they trained me in gel nails, and then from there I stayed in that salon for 10 years, and it was, I'm trying to think how many years, the last year of that was when COVID happened and the salon got sold and we had new owners, so that was when it all sort of changed.
I suppose that's quite nice then, that you've seen different owners as well, so you've not just, even though you have been in one salon for a long time, you've not just seen one way of doing things, you've sort of experienced a few different ways as well.
And working with that, different people as well. If you had a problem, be like, oh, this keeps happening, and then you could bounce an idea around.
Did you find there was a competitive edge to being in a salon environment where you're employed?
Really. I think that sort of took that off, in the sense that you were all getting paid the same regardless. So no matter how busy or not busy you were, you're getting paid the same because you're employed. It didn't make you feel as competitive in a way.
You're not fighting over a customer coming through the door.
No, exactly. And because a lot of the girls had been there so long, like you did sort of make relationships with clients, and where people either knew certain clients preferred certain therapists, or some clients were just happy to go with anyone anyway. Like it was a really lovely team that I worked with. I think I was quite fortunate in that. I wasn't someone who went into salons. Like before working in one, I'd never been someone that would go into a salon anyway, so I had no real idea on what to expect.
So talk me through a typical day in the salon then. If you're fully booked day in the salon, what was that like?
We would get there for about 9:30 for setting up, and then clients would be in from 10. And you generally would have 2 to 4 staff members in a day, depending on like the day of the week that it was and like how busy those days were. So to start with, when I was an apprentice, it was a lot quieter. But I think that's because I was so like new to it, and I was level 2. I did a lot of nails at that point because that was what I was qualified in. I had a lot emptier days at that point.
And was that a worry for you when you were first starting out?
No.
About job security or anything like that? No.
No, weirdly, no. I've always been like quite relaxed about that sort of thing, and I knew I was still making myself useful. So if you weren't doing treatments, you'd God, there's so many things to do in a salon, isn't there? Like you'd be doing admin, you'd be doing, because we didn't have a receptionist, we would be doing the reception as well as doing treatments and cleaning the salon, keeping on top of the salon.
That is one of the things that I really have noticed between therapists that come from a salon versus self-employed, in that like if you're self-employed and you have a break, you might nip out, or you might go home for a bit, or you might kind of go on your phone for a bit. It's like a break. Whereas when I see people who've come from a salon, what's that phrase? And it's like, if there's time to lean, there's time to clean.
That's such a good phrase.
I saw that on TikTok, and I think it was a hairdresser, but she was saying that the owner always used to say that, and it was like, there's time to lean, there's time to clean.
Oh yeah.
And in between clients, it wasn't just a quick browse on your phone, but then I suppose when you're self-employed, you're getting back to messages, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you are working, but it's just different.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily like cleaning the loo in that 5-minute gap.
Yeah, that was very much, I'd have days where I'd have like, very much when I was an apprentice, I'd have like no one in for the large chunk of that 10 hours, and I would not have had a break. Like it still would have just been non-stop doing stuff, whether that was like cleaning, like stock, getting things prepped and ready for other people. I think that's something which I miss from having like working as a team, is you would sort of help each other out. So in the sense of turning someone's room round ready for the next treatment, or you'd see to someone else's client at reception so they could get on with the next thing, and vice versa. So it was a lot more teamwork, and things would run a lot more fluid.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, there's an element of when you're in control of everything yourself, at least you know how everything's been done, you know exactly what's been
Yes, because do you remember when I first started here and I thought the blinds went up and down at the end of every day?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, and I was like, what are you doing in here? And you were like,
"Hey, do you keep messing with the blinds in my room?" And I was like, yeah, I was doing the closing down. And you were like, no, I always leave it the night before,
ready for the next
first treatment, whether the blinds need to be up or down, whether I've got massage, facial,
waxing,
like, brows, whatever. I set it up, and then you'd keep coming in and be like, why are the blinds down again? I swear I left them up.
I think I left these
I
up.
thought I was really helping out doing the close down, and then you were like,
but that's
no.
I think that's an element of like when you do certain treatments, because obviously you wouldn't be used to how do you set up for doing brows if you're not someone who does brows.
No, I just thought the blinds were there for like privacy.
Yeah.
I just thought at night you shut them and in the morning you off them.
But then even that, like, because there'll be how you set up for nails will be different to how I set up for nails, but how I set up for nails was how everyone in the salon set up for nails.
Yes, because you've all been taught exactly the same.
Exactly. So there was a sense of like you had to do things in a uniform way in a salon. So this was how a room looked when you turned it round, and it wasn't each person had their own way of having a setup. It was no, this is how it looks. So there is a nice freedom when it is your own space, so I can have things set up how I find it easiest for me.
Yeah, that is such a good point.
So that is a definite like win with having your own space and being able to just have that control and personalising it.
But I suppose it's quite nice to get taught certain things.
Yeah.
Because my setup has changed so much over the years from when I first started out, even down to the kit I've got. like where I place my things, like
Yeah.
the amount of tools I have, all of that, because I've had to just sort of trial and error what does and doesn't work for me. Whereas I suppose maybe if you've in a salon and an owner's telling you
exactly
how they want it.
Especially because when you learn in college is so different. College is so different to actually real life working in a natural salon environment. So I think that really paid off doing an apprenticeship and getting that experience and seeing it firsthand what was more realistic. Because it's quite dated, college. I don't know what they're like these days, because obviously this was, you're talking 10 plus years ago. Oh God, 15 years ago. But it was even in those days it was dated how you would be trained and how you'd set up for things. And I'd say if, like, for instance, if you're going training and then you are working by yourself at home, it'd benefit going and having your nails done.
Yeah.
You know, like actually just seeing how other people work and what their setup is like versus a educational setup.
Have you ever seen that? It was like a photography project and they had a block of flats and it showed the interiors of each person's flat. And it was so nosy, but I was like, I would love like a field trip where you go around to different salons or different nail techs or whatever, and was like, how do you have your desk? Where do you put your thing? I think that's why content on social that's like set my drawers up with me does so well. Yeah. Because everyone wants to see.
Yeah, because it just gives
where
you,
people keep things.
And you can cherry pick then for the things that work for you, which I've changed things around definitely in my beauty room. I'd say my nail setup has been pretty solid throughout the whole time I've been self-employed, and that's not too far off what it was like when I was working in the salon, other than the fact that I keep my my base products on the desk. I find that I may as well just leave them on the desk, whereas before it was you put everything away. But then at the same time, you're in a salon where anyone could walk into the front and the nail desks are at the front. Whereas here we've got a locked door. You're not going to get someone just wandering in.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I wouldn't even thought about that. I was assuming it was like, when you just said you put them away, then I was assuming it was because of keeping the desk clean, and then it's easier to clean without things on and stuff, especially if you're helping each other out. But that makes so much sense that it's not as secure, is it?
Yeah, we did a lot more manicures then. So it wasn't always gel.
Yes.
Whereas here I keep my gels out because it is pretty much always gel.
Every service is going to have a top coat.
Yeah, exactly. In the salon we did a lot of normal polish manicures, so you would get out the products depending on what treatment you were doing. And we do a lot more like luxury manicures and stuff like that when you're in a salon. Whereas I think that's something I dropped when I went self-employed, just because it's just like an added faff.
I also think that's probably timing of when you went self-employed. I wonder now if salons still do a lot of luxury manicures. I bet they don't, you know.
I bet they'll have them on the menus.
You think?
For like an actual, that sort of a salon, I bet they would. Because it's like an add-on treatment. Which it is true, it is like an easy add-on to be able to have those options to make more money. As a therapist, it's a faff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got to deal with like the mask and the heated mitts and the removal and the washing the hands. And
see, that's something I learned on one of my training courses and I've never thought about since. I've never implemented, I've never set up. I've never felt the need to. Like, and I'd feel really out of my depth doing something like that.
Yeah.
Even like the paraffin wax, I'd feel so out of my depth because it was covered for like the tiniest snippet of one morning of a training course.
We did that in college. I've never done that in a salon because it is so messy.
So that's another thing that kind of the theory's there, but practicality, salon owners are worried. Yeah, makes sense. So what was it like having a boss? Did they tend to be on site? Did they tend to be?
They were very much working. When I had bosses, my bosses were beauty therapists. They weren't people who couldn't do beauty themselves. Whereas I know there are salons where they'll have an owner who doesn't actually do the treatments, which actually when the salon sold, the new owner then didn't do all the treatments, and it was different having someone who understood the treatment versus someone who didn't, because then it relied a lot more on us to dictate stuff versus when I first started it'd be quite straightforward because they knew exactly what you'd need, how to set things up, what felt nice as a client, what good instruction on how to do treatments. It felt quite good having a boss who knew what they were doing treatment wise. It did feel a lot of pressure, I'd say. You felt time pressures because you've got someone then clock watching you, and obviously time is money in that situation.
And what was the timing? So say like a I suppose you didn't do build gel as much then, did you? But say like a shellac gel type manicure.
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yeah. And it was hard. No.
Yeah.
I don't do that now. Like, I give myself an hour. It, you know, when you sort of look back and you think, how did I do that? We used to do pedicures in 45 minutes. I'm like, how did I do pedicures in 45 minutes? But you just did. And I remember there being a time when I was like new to doing nails, and I've always been chatty. And essentially I was getting told not to talk so much because I was getting too distracted from doing the actual treatment.
When I have a quiet client in, I'm always faster.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Because you get too distracted in the conversation. But I remember looking up, my boss was stood behind the client so the client couldn't see, and she was tapping a watch. And I was just like, okay. Like, it's a lot of pressure when you've got someone like watching what you're doing.
That is a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think especially when you're new and everyone's second guessing your work, so they're wanting to like check everything that you're doing. I always like seek validation that I've done good work, or like appraisal. With self-employed, that's when you go off by yourself. I'm like, oh, I wish there was someone that could just look at my work and be like, oh no, that is good.
Yeah, so, that self-doubt when you...
Yeah, so as much as it's pressure if you're doing it bad, it's a bit like off-putting, but having someone confirm that what you're doing is right always was like just a bit of... took the pressure off in a way.
That's such a good point. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, so mixture of added pressure, but also taking the pressure off.
Yeah.
The actual final decision on if something's
and
alright.
I suppose was the final accountability with the owner then as well. So
probably when I was newer.
Did it? Yeah, when you were first training, did it feel like you sort of had a bit of a safety net because if there was a mistake or something's going wrong, you had someone to ask or who could fix it?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, that in itself is a whole thing, because then it's like you've got someone else taking care of, like, if you're ill, they ring their clients and tell them that you're poorly, which is a huge thing. I mean, I'm sure if you're ever ill and you're self-employed, then having to tell your clients that you're ill is the last thing you want to be doing when you're feeling rotten.
Yeah, especially if it's like a migraine and you think, I can't look at the screen right now.
Literally. I remember being when I had appendicitis and I'm in the hospital letting clients know. Like, that's not really what you want to be doing when you're
I was thinking
in
this the other day. I should really tell my husband where the app is, because he wouldn't actually know that my bookings are taken through Fresher.
Yeah.
Like, he just knows I come in here and I do my work and he'll see pictures I share on Instagram, but he doesn't know like the ins and outs. So I was thinking,
just a backup for if you ever need
if there was ever a big emergency and I needed him to contact my clients and say, just to let me know. Because he wouldn't even have your number to get in touch with you to say, Laura's really poorly, can you let her clients, is there any way? And even then obviously you're limited in what you can do, but is there any way you can put a story out or do this or do that? Like, he wouldn't even know how to do that with you. So I was thinking I should probably show him and be like, here you go on my phone, here's this,
you're my
here's
emergency contact, so you actually need to know what to do in an emergency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know, it's a definite advantage just having someone else take care of that side of things.
So do you also get that benefit in the sense that you can leave work at the door?
Yes. You wouldn't, well, yeah, because it wasn't like these days where you have social media and you're contacting people about their appointments and things like that. It was very much we'd work reception ourselves, but it would be a reception phone and you'd be doing things on the computer at the salon, and if you weren't in the salon you couldn't do anything. When you're clocked off, you were clocked off, very much so.
Probably a bit better work-life balance then.
Very much a better work-life balance.
And do you think that's because of the time period you were in a salon? Do you think that would be different in a salon now if someone's employed, or do you think that is like a benefit of employment?
Yeah, I feel like salons are a lot more on it with social media and whatnot now, but whether that's taken up by a certain people with a certain person with a role to do that within a salon. So I don't know if that would, in like nowadays world, that would filter through to the staff. I don't know, or whether they'd have someone specifically in charge of their social media.
Yeah, would it be the owner? Would it be on a rota? Would it be salon manager maybe? Yeah,
because I feel like nowadays it's a lot more, people want instant and online booking, and that wasn't a thing when I was working. Online booking wasn't a thing.
So were there any sort of differences in expectation for your reality, sort of when you went into the salon as an apprentice? Did you sort of have any preconceptions of what salon life would be like? And
I thought it was going to be really bitchy.
Right.
And it wasn't. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like movies that do it to you, but you sort of think of these salons as being these really impeccable, Barbie, beautiful, intimidating and catty is what I thought a salon life was like, and it really wasn't. I was really pleasantly surprised, and I don't know if that was just where I was or whether that generally is the thing with most salons, but it was a really nice environment in terms of just a lot of women supporting women in that way. And clients as well, we had a lot of down-to-earth clients, and that makes it a lot nicer if you've got nice clients. I mean, obviously everyone's going to have your odd difficult ones, but it was a lot more of a relaxed environment. I remember when I first started out, I was full makeup every day, eyeliner, hair done, but then you sort of relax into it a bit more and you think, okay, no, people can appreciate that maybe you don't want to be doing foundation every day.
And was there an expectation when it did come to uniform and appearance?
You had uniform, and I feel like I carry that through to self-employed now, in a sense. It just takes away something to think about. You know, if you've got yourself a uniform, even if that's regular clothes, but just the clothes you wear for the salon.
Yeah.
Then
I always wear black.
Yeah,
I've got specific black trousers and
the brain space of trying to think about putting an outfit together, and it means you enjoy your clothes when you're not in work.
It does make you look more professional, I think.
We went through some uniforms where you think,
Did you have the tunics, like the beauty tunic?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. When I first started, we were in white pencil skirts and like the same tunic material, and then the white tunic.
That's giving Boots Pharmacy.
Yeah, yeah. And I just remember it was one of those things where it's like, this has not been thought through in a sense of what it feels to physically be doing treatments, like wearing a skirt that you can't like move your legs around, especially because obviously we were doing like waxing and massage, so you are moving around a lot. It wasn't a comfortable working uniform, but it was one that looked smart, equally because it was white. So, you know, and it just takes the tiniest bit of product going on you, and you just,
That's the eternal debate, isn't it? Because I wear black at the minute, but then I'm always look like I'm covered in dust, even with my apron on.
Mm-hmm.
But then white would just show everything up. I'm like, do I need to go for a taupe? Like, is there a middle ground?
I know, is there a middle ground? There's like no winning really, is there?
Yeah.
Unless there's a pattern. Maybe if you had a pattern on, then it sort of disguises it a bit more. But we were, majority of my career were in dresses.
Dresses? Wow.
Dresses, to start off with, was dolly shoes, which I don't know how my feet survived it. Because dolly shoes, oh my gosh, so uncomfortable.
That's such a different world.
It really
Dresses
is.
and dolly shoes.
Dresses
As
and
someone
dolly
who's
shoes.
just done a nail course and then gone into self-employment and found what I feel
Yeah, you
comfortable.
should wear comfy.
That feels worlds apart.
Yeah. And then we then went into dresses and trainers, and they were so much more comfy.
Did that feel like a little revolution? And you were like,
wearing trainers for work was brilliant.
And what was it like in terms of training and development then? Did you get quite a lot of development opportunities through being employed?
Yes, but I think that also came with the fact that I did multiple treatments. So in terms of nails, I wouldn't say there was much of a broad range once you trained in gel nails, and we used Nailtiques at the time. They were a really good like brand for normal nail polish. So we trained with them and then trained with the gel, but then outside of that there was no updated nail training.
Yeah, you're not going to probably get
I've done a lot
Russian
more
manicure training for a salon. It's going to be
just your basic nails.
Whereas I suppose if they're focused on speed as well and profit, spending 2.5 hours on a set of plain nails is not where the profit comes in, is it? And
we very much were specialised in facials and skincare, so we did get additional training. It just wasn't nails, that was the focus. It was the focus was on other treatments. Whereas maybe if it was a salon where nails was their biggest income, then maybe they would invest more in their training for nails. But I'd say I've invested in a lot more training for nails since being self-employed, and it's been in my control of what I'm training in.
That's really interesting, because I would have assumed, when you're with a salon you get more development opportunities because you're not having to fund it yourself, but I suppose you've got to then convince someone who is funding it why it's worth it and make a business case and all of that side of it.
Yeah, and I definitely was, but it would be more like by adding more treatments on.
Right.
But that would sort of came in time, and I'd say that's because I was there for 10 years. So obviously I did do lots of different training over
Yeah,
time.
especially when they swap brands and things like that.
Exactly. So every time you swap a brand, you've got a fresh set of training, and then I'd add on more treatments as time went on.
Rather than sort of you training in, say, nails, and then you're adding on more and more and more to your nail knowledge. It's like box tick for nails. Now
Exactly.
let's learn a different style facial or something.
Very much like box ticking. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. I didn't think it would be like that. What things do nail techs not realise makes them look unprofessional? One thing I've really noticed since working with you was kind of the smaller little kind of client care or etiquette things that you do that I've never been taught and never would think to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've learned so much just from being around you. So what are the things you'd say that nail techs may not do or may do that they don't realise makes them look unprofessional? What would never fly in a salon that self-employed nail techs might be doing without realising? What would you say you learned from being in a salon that you just don't get taught on a nail course?
So I'd say there's a lot of, when it comes down to like your salon etiquette stuff, that was drilled into me from having like the owners, but I think is really beneficial. So just general things like taking people's coats when they come in the door, greeting people when you see them. The amount of times I'll walk into a salon, like when I've been to have beauty in like a hair salon, but then everyone ignores you, and it makes you feel really like awkward as a client when people aren't acknowledging that you're there.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot to be said for just looking up and saying hi to someone when they're in the room, whether they're your client or not. Just greeting anyone that you see, being friendly to anyone you see, a smile to anyone you see. If you're offering someone a drink, offer everyone who around you a drink. If you're making one for yourself, offer it to the people who are there. Making sure people are warm and comfy, just outside of the actual treatment that you're doing, is what I'd say. And I don't think I've ever been on a training course that has mentioned that.
No, I haven't. It's always about the actual treatment, isn't it? It's not necessarily about the experience.
All the stuff around the outside, There's a lot to be said for just a bit of humanity and a bit of thinking of people outside of what you're there to do. So like for nails, outside of the fact that you're doing the nails, you can be like, oh, are you feeling warm enough? Do you want a blanket? Are you thirsty? What drinks would you like? You're amazing for all your drink offers. I know that.
That's just because I like to have good drinks in stock.
I know.
So I'm like, do you want
You're
a syrup?
a
Do you want
drink.
a candy cane at Christmas?
You do feel like you have to be more than just the nail tech though, don't you? You have to take on a role that's so much more than that, and that's whether you're self-employed or employed. There's a lot more that comes around that, but I think when you're self-employed you maybe don't have someone reminding you of that.
Yes, when I first arrived here I really noticed that you ask clients to take the coat, and I've never thought to do that. I've just assumed like clients come in, they've always just hung the coat on the back of the chair, put the bag down wherever, but actually for a new client that's coming in, they don't necessarily know the space, they don't know me. It's really nice to say, let me take your bag, let me take your coat, would you like me to do that for you? And then they've just got less questions.
There are things that we're homed in on in terms of the actual words that you'd use. Now I don't know if that really plays much of a big part, but you'd get told off for saying, do you want me to take your coat? It would be, you'd get told to say, would you like me to take your coat? Not do you want me? And that might be taking it a bit far. But it sort of made you think, just be mindful of how you word and stuff and how you're coming across.
Yes. And what were the no-go topics of conversation?
Oh my gosh. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about vaccinations. You don't talk about there's like a big three, isn't there? Vaccines, politics and religion. Because you're opening a can of worms, and especially if you've got multiple clients in the building who might have totally different views from each other. It's just, let's keep the vibe friendly.
Yeah.
If you're one-on-one with someone, it's a bit easier to have a conversation. But
it is, but I think they're such heated topics, aren't they? And at the end of the day, people are here for a nice time.
Exactly. People can get very passionate about things, and exactly, like everyone's going to have their own views on things, and you sort of, as long as people are approaching things with love and care, like, and respect to other people, not forcing their opinions down other people's throats, then it's fine. But you will get clients that do want to force it down people's throats. So if you've got multiple people in a room, it's just easier to stay clear.
I bet that's quite hard to manage in a bigger salon, right? If certain clients are talking about topics want to...
That was it, when it was Brexit.
Oh, my word.
Brexit, it was like you're navigating a minefield. You just... trying to like avoid anyone like bringing it up, but you know full well someone's going to bring it up and everyone has different opinions and you're just like, oh god.
Brexit and Meghan Markle.
Yeah,
Let's
literally.
not talk about those things.
Yes, because we'd have such a mix of clients in terms of age. So you would get like the older ones that are very not afraid to share their opinions.
When you first become a beautician, you don't think you're going to have to kind of micromanage adults' conversations, but sometimes you do, don't you? You do have to be mindful, and that's a skill in and of itself, isn't it? It's like kind of hearing someone say something and you're thinking, oh, that could go too far, let's bring it back, but without sounding like you're telling the client off for speaking about certain topics.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's almost like, almost just not having something to say about it. You're just like, That's sort of like the best way to approach it sometimes, rather than sort of offering a set opinion on something. Each client's different, because you know your boundaries. With some people, you don't know them well enough to maybe challenge it, and some people, you know, you've had them for years and you think you can have a laugh about something and be like, all right, hang on a second. Like, you've got that relationship then where you can actually challenge them on something. But yeah, it's very, when there's multiple people, so the people that aren't your clients, that's when it becomes a bit more tread carefully.
Yeah, not an environment.
It's nice though, at the same time, like when we're both working in here, I love it when we both have clients and we're like chatting across the four of us.
And you get different opinions and like different input and different stories.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? I do like that kind of atmosphere. It brings the energy, doesn't it, when you've got quite a few clients in at once?
Yeah. There's swings and roundabouts to everything, because it's nice to have a busy salon and have that atmosphere and that buzz, but at the same time there has been times when I've been sat there and I've had my next two clients sat waiting on the sofa, and so the stress of like when you've got like a waiting people that are just sat there and then other people's clients and you're running late maybe, that can be quite stressful. So it's nice to have a buzz, but sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming at the same time. Yeah, there's energy and then there's chaos. Yeah, all this chaos. Normally at Christmas.
So let's talk a little bit about making the leap from employment to self-employed then. When did you know you wanted to make that jump?
So it worked, everything sort of came together by its own, really, in a roundabout way. But COVID happened and obviously everything changed in the salon world when it came to COVID, because we were shut for as long as we were, and I think it made people think about things in a different way. I know I actually quite enjoyed having that time at home and having that freedom. So going back to work after having 4 months off, the salon that I was working in, I'd been there for 10 years, the salon got sold. So we had new owners, they completely redid the salon. So it felt like I'd started working in a new salon despite it being the same location. So I think that in itself felt like a clean break. So like if I was gonna do it, that was a good time to do it. I didn't have loyalty to the owner anymore. It wasn't the same salon. It was actually a client who approached me who said, would you ever consider going self-employed? I've got a space at my, she owned like a building where they did lots of different healthcare things, and she said, would you consider renting a room here? And that planted the seed. And I thought, oh, would I consider it? And then I came and had my hair done in this building with Jack, when Jack used to work upstairs. And he was saying, oh, would you ever consider going self-employed? I was like, funnily, you should mention that, but if you'd had asked me 6 months ago, I'd say absolutely not.
Yeah.
But now is the first time I'm actually considering that being a potential option.
I do think sometimes in life, opportunities are presented to you sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah, because genuinely before that I was so happy in what I was doing, it wouldn't have been something that I would have jumped to do. In that moment, it just sort of all aligned, like it made sense. I was like, well, my work isn't my work anymore, it's a whole new start, so I may as well do something that's actually going to align better for me. My sister's been self-employed for so many years, so doing hairdressing, so I'd seen it from her side, like the perks of what self-employed can bring in terms of just having that flexibility to choose your working hours. If you've not got anyone in, then you don't have to be in, so that's a huge advantage. Taking out like all your spends that go with being able to run treatments, but making more money because you actually get to keep what you earn. I was like, it's now or never is how I felt.
So did you have any fears before you made the leap to self-employed then?
It's a funny one. I feel like I should have been scared. It's when I look back at it, I don't know if it's one of those things where when you've got distance from it, it doesn't seem as bad. But actually, maybe if you'd asked me in the time, I would have said something different. I felt quite confident about it for some reason. And I'm not too sure why. Because if I think about it now, I'm like, surely I should have felt scared, but I don't remember myself feeling scared.
Maybe that just shows it was the right timing for you, though, the right thing to do at that time.
It just felt right. I think I'd built up at that point such a clientele, and as much as it was you don't know if they're going to follow you or not, I knew I had such strong relationships with all these clients already, versus I can imagine it being quite intimidating when you're first starting out and you've not got a clientele yet.
I think it depends how you do it, because I was already in another job and then I built this up on the side.
So
and then
the security net of a job. Yeah.
But then I imagined you would say it was scary financially going from a monthly, like a set salary to then not having that security.
I think that's where COVID comes in.
Right.
I'd survived on furlough pay, and I was like, if I can survive on furlough pay, I don't need to be earning much to get what that was, and anything else is a bonus.
Right.
So I don't think I would have necessarily had that confidence had it not been for surviving lockdown. And prior to that, I'd broke my wrist, and I was off work for 9 weeks. And whether you're employed or not, if you're in the beauty industry, you only get statutory, you don't get anything else.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I can survive that, I can survive the period of time where I'm going to build myself up. And then thankfully like thrive.
Is there anything you do differently if you were to open up your space now versus back then 4 years ago?
Not so much in the opening part. There's things I'd do differently now to how I'm doing it now, but that's more because right now I feel like it's the overwhelm of admin right now. I think maybe I would have felt a bit more confident when I'm starting out to go into online bookings. At the time, I didn't really know enough about it and feel confident enough about it to dive into that, but I think that would have been really beneficial. Whereas now it's a bit overwhelming when you've already got your routine and your setup to make that change. And I know I need to. Yeah. So now it's like, I know I need to make changes to make things work better for me now.
Yeah. I always think it's good, like whenever you've got a big change in your business, it's a good time to make other changes. Like if you move, like when I moved from my last salon to here, I was like, right, I'm going to just check over all my policies. I'm going to like make sure my deposit thing is in line. Like just check over the way I do everything. Yeah. Because you're already making changes, and then people who only know you from like that point, they only know how it's been.
That's all, I'd probably say that's something which was a bit harder when you have clients following you from working in a salon to being self-employed, and all of a sudden you're putting your own policies in place that might have been different to where you worked before. That can be a bit awkward, because then you're like, well, this is actually going to be the cancellation policy, but you do have to protect yourself when you're self-employed. You're not working, you don't earn. There has to then be that, whereas prior you'd have clients and maybe like they'd cancel or no-show and there'd be no repercussions for it because it'd sort of be absorbed by the business.
Right, so there wasn't a deposit or cancellation policy?
There was deposits for bigger appointments, but not for nails. Like that wouldn't be classed as a big appointment. It'd be if someone was in for like 4 hours, and they'd take a deposit, but it would sort of be absorbed by the company if there was something where someone didn't turn up, and then the same clients then who decided to come here, who then may have cancelled last minute or no-showed, and then I'm asking for
like a no-show fee.
Yeah, I'm asking for a no-show fee, and they're a bit like, oh, or they'll ghost you and not reply. You roll with the punches, I guess, as you go.
Did you struggle with loneliness when you first started by yourself?
When you're busy with clients, your only actual time to yourself is your lunch breaks, unless you have like obviously gaps in the diary, but very much was super busy at the start, so you wouldn't really have much time where you weren't talking. It's almost a bit of peace to have a moment. At the end of a working day, I don't know if you do it, you go home and like just sit in your car for a bit before you go into your partner.
I sit on that chair over there and
I just need a moment not to talk.
He always says to me, what time are you home tonight? And I'll say 8:30 to 9. I never give a definite answer because I think I might need half an hour sit before I start.
Exactly. Sometimes you do just need to decompress when you've been talking all day. It's a lot.
That's it, decompress. That's such a good word for it. How did you find the admin side of it? Because presumably when you were employed, someone else dealt with the business, the tax, the social media, the bookings. That side of it, and then suddenly you've got to do everything.
Yeah, I was halfway there because we did all the admin in terms of the bookings. So the diary and running the diary, that was always something I was comfortable with. And ordering stock, we did that as well. So that didn't feel like a shock. But when it came to doing things like taxes, yeah, that's a wake-up call when you're having to do that, and things like ground rent. Just a lot of different businessy things that maybe I hadn't thought of, or like sorting out insurance, or sorting out the council needs to approve you for like microblading, that sort of thing. There's all of a sudden a lot more things to think about, and I think I can find it quite overwhelming when there's a lot of messages. Whereas before, because it used to be a lot on the phone, and because you would have someone else there who's maybe cleaning up, I'd be doing the admin side, but at least while I'm doing the admin side, someone else is cleaning up. But when you're having to clean up and do the admin side, it's just, it takes up a lot of your energy, whether that's like brain or physical. I do find myself a lot of the time sort of going in my little shell. I mean, like, I'll come back to that at another point, but I think that's where, and I've seen on like your previous podcasts about like doing the online bookings. It's obviously like, I know that's beneficial.
Do you know what, it is and it isn't, because it depends on you and your business. Because I've had guests on before who love online booking the same as me and think it takes a weight off with the messaging, but then other people who it doesn't work for, they've tried it didn't work, they got rid of it. So I think it depends on
I think I need to try it so that I can say I've tried it from a self-employed side of things. But it's just when you're juggling different types of treatments, that's the problem, because you've got different setup times for different things. Yeah,
I think that's the thing with online booking, it's making it as easy as possible for your clients. So for me, because I only do nails, and yes, the nail art can be slightly confusing, so that's usually what I'll get messages about. But I've got pinned posts at the top of my Instagram that will say, here's what you need to book. I don't get that many messages, so for me it really eases the communication. Whereas I think for people like hairdressers or someone like you who has a lot of different services, then maybe you just get the same amount of messages, but it's people asking you what they need to book on the booking system. So maybe it doesn't help.
I think maybe if I put it on for like certain services.
Yeah, because I suppose if someone's just booking for the regular eyebrow maintenance, they know what they need, it's the same amount of time, easy done.
Other than a patch test situation, you're pretty good to go. But if someone's wanting waxing and they also want a massage and they also want a lash lift, like there's going to be different times I need to set the room up for different parts. And that's where I feel like having a receptionist made it a bit harder in beauty.
Oh, really?
So when the new owners took over, we then had a receptionist, and we had never had one before. But having someone manage the reception who doesn't do the treatments, they don't necessarily understand, like, someone can't have a leg wax and a full body on the same day, because if you freshly wax the skin, you're not going to put oil on top of it. Or like, this might take a bit longer if you're going from this treatment to this treatment and XYZ, or this will work a bit faster if you put them together.
That's such a good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
The specifics of each treatment
There's
that you understand only if you're doing them.
Yeah, so I think maybe if you've got a receptionist who's been there a long time, then they probably will get the gist of it. But I do think sometimes it can just make it a bit more complicated.
So do you think everyone should be made to work? Not made to. What in the dictatorship? Should be made. Should everyone work in a salon? Should nail techs work in a salon as an employed tech before they become self-employed?
I don't think it's a case that you need to be employed, but I think you need to be part of a community. So whether that be, a lot of training courses will put you in a group so you can keep in contact with the people you've trained with, or the nail social that you guys run, that's amazing for just being able to communicate with other people in the same field at the same level and journey that you're on. I just think it's good to have some sort of communication and community around you, so that you do have someone to bounce ideas off, or like if you're having a problem, you've got someone you can talk to. So it doesn't necessarily mean being employed and working in a salon, but just having a community of some sorts, I think, is quite vital, especially when you're starting out.
I think what you said before is quite interesting as well, about going and getting your nails done in a salon. So you have that experience and you can learn kind of what the etiquette is like, what the treatment is like, what that experience as a whole is like. That's quite a good tip, I think.
Do you know what? That actually did come from my previous employers, because our Christmas do was always to go to a spa.
Love that.
I know, but it was part of that was experiencing it from a client side of things. It really helps you then understand what it feels like to be a client, and to what you appreciate, what you like, what you don't like, what sort of things are on your radar. So for instance, I've been and had my toes done somewhere and there was a wax pot with a spatula left on it, and I was like, that looks a bit grubby. But it was things like that which then meant that damn right make sure I'm going to have my salon nice and tidy when someone's in for a treatment, because I don't want a client to be sat there thinking, that's grubby.
Yeah.
So it's things that you then learn that you appreciate. Like, so just taking the time to be a client, I think, is a really good investment to being a better therapist.
I agree. I think that's a really good point. And also how nice to get to go on a bougie spa.
Well, that's how I get my nails done with you.
It's nice to be the client as well.
It's very nice to be the client.
Educational and for pampering purposes.
Tell you right now, I'm putting that through as a business expense.
In it?
Market research.
It is. Well, hopefully you've learned a lot.
I know.
And what would you say to someone who's romanticising being self-employed?
There's a lot more work to it than I think what people give credit. A lot of people think it's just a dead simple wake up, do nails and you're done. No. There's so much more to it. Like, especially with the fact that social media often is your shop window these days, because unless you are in a salon, you generally don't have like a shop window in the sense of people being able to see what you do. They need to go online to see what you do, but for that you need to make the content.
Yeah. And
that's a big part of it, which didn't used to be a thing at all. We never put treatments on social media when I was working in the salon, but we had a shop front and we relied on a lot of people that just walked in your doors. So I think you just have to be a lot more prepared for the things it takes to make your business noticeable and successful. It's worth the effort, but it requires effort.
I suppose it's what stage of life you're in as well, because I always think a lot of people do start out employed in a salon and then move to self-employed because they see the benefits of self-employment. But then it could work the other way, couldn't it? You know, if you've been someone who's really appreciated the flexibility or not even necessarily the flexibility, but the self-employed has worked for you, but then suddenly you're a little bit older, you've got kids, you need that monthly income, you haven't got the time to be doing all the social media on the side, and you want that security and you're valuing that more than kind of doing it your own way. I can see people making the step the other way as well.
And it's definitely been something that at points has crossed my mind. Like, and I can see why people would. Yeah. Definitely. And relate to it, and fair play if that's what suits you in the moment. I've noticed the same when people have been gone from a job that's maybe in their career path and then they've changed to working in their shop. Yeah. Because they just want to take that mental load off and work in something that you can leave the job at, like you're saying, leave the job at the door sort of thing. There's a lot to be said for that. Yeah, your time is yours and it's not encroached on in the same way that owning your own business is 24 hours. Yeah, you're not there at 10 p.m. at night looking at messages, replying to people, seeing where you can fit people in your diary. Yeah, you do think about your own business all the time. All the time. I'll try and have days off. Things will pop in my head. I'll be on a walk and I'll go, oh, I should do that for social media, or that'd be a really cool thing, or oh, I really want to get that for the salon, and then I'm like, oh, best make a note of that so I don't forget it. And it's like, have a day off. I think that's something that makes you special though. Oh, thanks. I think you've got a very creative mind, and I feel like you come up with loads of ideas and stuff, so I'd say I can switch off quite easily when I'm off, but I get the guilt. I always feel guilty when I'm not replying to messages, say, because Sunday, Monday is my day off. So I often won't reply to messages on those days. And then sometimes I'll have scheduled photos go out. Is the client looking at my Instagram thinking, she's online, she's posting nails, she's not replied to me. Yeah. So the other day, when I was having a few days off, I specifically put a story out and said, I'm signing off for the weekend. You might see pictures going out, but they're pre-scheduled. I'll get back to messages on XYZ date. With Instagram, because I think when you're online on your personal Instagram, it shows up that you're online on your work. Does it? I think so. New feature unlocked. I know. I'm sure it does. Give us a break. Because you're on the app. So I'm always conscious of that, but I don't really know the way around that. Other than the fact that, like, I will reply to your message when I get a chance to reply to your message. Yeah. And then just being honest with people, when you get back to them, I'm really sorry I've not spoken. I'm really sorry that I'm only just getting back to you. What can I do for you? Yeah. And just being a bit more human. I think that's it. It is a juggle, isn't it? And we could all always get back to a message slightly quicker, but then we do have to have downtime or we're going to burn out. But it is that balance. It's the balance. It's the balance, because you don't want to leave people waiting a week either for a reply to an easy question. So it's a juggle. It's a juggle. Are you ready for a nightmare from the nail desk, which is my agony aunt section? I'm very ready for this. Let's do it. Ready and waiting. Right. Hey, I'm self-employed renting a desk in a salon and I'm having an issue with the owner.
She keeps jumping into my appointments and giving her opinions on my clients' nails, like shape, colours, etc., even when no one has asked. It's making me feel like I look unprofessional in front of my own clients, but I don't know how to say something because it's her salon. What would you do?
Depends on how she's jumping in. If she's, you know, if they're jumping in and correcting stuff, or if they're jumping in and offering an opinion. Because they could be saying it as a positive way and be chatty, and then just make a conversation. Because I feel like that would be something when, especially in the salon with the other people, it's more that you're trying to warm up so the clients feel comfortable and you're having a conversation like, oh, I love that colour you're going for.
Yeah, you do that, don't you?
amazing.
You say, let me see what you're having and stuff. And it's not like, what are you having that's wrong?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If someone's jumping in and being quite rude about your treatment in front of a client, that would be a hard one to approach. Because you would have to approach it, 100%.
Yeah, you've got to.
In every situation, honesty is the best policy. You can approach it from a place of kindness and be like, I really appreciate it if you're coming from a place of like wanting to help, but I just really would appreciate you talking to me one-on-one about that and not in front of a client, because it's undermining my work. And people should really understand that, and if they don't, then they're not the place you want to work for.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If she's jumping in front of clients and trying to correct you in front of clients, that's quite unprofessional.
Yeah, it's undermining.
So then is that the kind of environment you want to work from? Is it the kind of environment you're going to grow in, or is it better to look for somewhere else?
Yeah.
I think I'd bring it up with her first.
Yeah, and it might be something that actually is good in terms of it might actually help your treatments and be beneficial to know about, but it's a case of that should be a conversation outside of
you could even say to her, like, I don't do well with feedback in the moment when I'm trying to also chat because I forget it, so I'd find it better if you text it to me instead, because then I've got it written down and I can come back to it. I mean, it depends, because if she's a very, very experienced therapist, and yes, it's not ideal that she's correcting you in front of a client, but what she's saying, you're thinking, oh, that is good advice.
Exactly.
That is improvement. Maybe you schedule a one-to-one with her, see if she'll do a masterclass with you, that kind of thing.
Even just like, I really appreciate the advice. Could I do a one-on-one session with you?
Yeah. I think it's really tricky because not as a salon owner as in me, but somebody who is a salon owner who is renting desks out, everyone is their own business and they can run things exactly how they like, but it's still their name above the door.
Yeah.
So it must be quite a hard position as a salon owner to be in, because you're giving up that control.
Yeah.
And with that, you're giving up the fact you're not having to do the taxes for them, and there's a freedom in renting rather than having an employed salon as well. But I think they are having to relinquish that control, but it is still their name and reputation on the line. So I would use it as a growth opportunity. Really look at your own work.
Yeah.
Is she being finicky, picky, and unprofessional, or has she got some valid points and you do actually need to upskill?
I feel like you've got a better mindset on that, because I've not been in that situation of being self-employed in someone else's salon. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, when I was self-employed in a salon, it was primarily a lash salon, so the owners didn't do that because they were offering different treatments. So we were just left to it. And
then when I was employed, it would be very much, and coming from an apprentice perspective, I'd always been brought up on this level of, oh, I need to learn from the people who've been there for longer, and any information's great. So I also don't think they would have pulled me up in front of a client. That's the thing, it's the in front of a client. Yeah. So that's where you sort of have to just be mindful of, is this, if it's someone who's pulling you up in front of a client in a negative way, then maybe that's not someone you want to learn from anyway. So, facts. Facts. Yeah. If they're being positive and saying it in a nice way, then that's a different story. You wouldn't have an issue with it, would you? Yeah. Thank you very much. I think this has been really good. I think, we've learned a lot about the importance of professionalism, etiquette, the pros and cons of both self-employed and employed. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you. I hope you had fun. Yes, as always. So where can everybody find you online if they want to follow you? So mainly on Instagram. I am on Facebook as well, which I think is the same name as my Instagram, but it's ELLE_EK Beauty. I'll pop it on screen as well for people. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, comment, follow it wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. It really does help.
and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Also, if you've got a dilemma you would like some advice on, slide on into the DMs and we'll be sure to solve it in our next episode. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.